News Channel 8 presents New Skills for Living with your host, Tom Lavin, a healthy plan for healthy living.
Hello, I'm Tom Lavin. Welcome to New Skills for Living, a show dedicated to healing and wholeness in our community. If you or a loved one has ever suffered with obesity or a weight problem, you'll want to watch our show today as we have an excellent expert guest with us to discuss these issues. Our guest is Dr. Jason Lillis, and Jason received his doctorate at the University of Nevada, Reno. He currently is on the faculty of the University of Nevada, Reno, after returning from Stanford, where he did 2 years of practice at the Stanford School of Medicine. Jason, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me, Tom.
So, Jason, we're going to be talking about obesity and weight loss and weight problems. And can you help me understand and help us understand why has the level of obesity risen so much in the last generation or so?
Well, yeah, it is really remarkable. The rate of people who are overweight and obese in America right now is about 2/3. So, in a sense, it's actually not normal to be at a healthy weight these days. And I think there are a lot of factors contributing to that. I think there's no doubt that we live in a very toxic food environment. Foods that are healthy to eat tend to be more expensive and take time to prepare and effort. And the cheaper foods that are high in calories and fat and sugar are usually pretty readily available and easy to grab and easy to buy. And so I think that is certainly a big part of it. We're eating out more. We have more sedentary lifestyles. We're not kind of doing as much physical activity as we used to. And all of this, I think, is coinciding with another societal movement, which is something I call kind of a move towards rampant feel-goodism, if you will, where we're kind of being pushed in a societal sense to a place where kind of the number one goal of living has become feeling good. And it's good to feel good now and feel good always, and you can always feel better at any moment. And so we're kind of pushed in this direction to do things, buy cars and clothes and all these things to make us feel better and to not feel bad. Well, one part of that is one very reliable way to feel good right now is take some kind of delicious comfort food and eat it. And without a doubt, that's something that will activate the kind of pleasure systems in your brain and give you kind of a food buzz. And so, if everything went poorly in your day, when you come home, you could have 5 or 10 good minutes there just by kind of eating a hamburger or a cake or something. Yeah. And so I think there's two forces, the toxic food environment on the one hand, and then kind of our drive to have our number one goal be feel good all the time. On the other hand, they're kind of meeting, and you're seeing the results are pretty remarkable. So,
Jason, of course, people do want to feel good.
Sure.
But are you saying we can't feel good all the time, or we have to stop looking for love in all the wrong places? We have to start looking in the right places rather than the wrong places?
Yeah, there's certainly nothing wrong with feeling good, and I, just like everyone else, would like to have as much of that in my life as possible. Yeah. When it becomes kind of a narrowly focused, or kind of the flip side of that is when not feeling good becomes not okay to you, and when that's just can't happen, and you're not open to feeling the full range of the human experience, the kind of normal ups and downs of going through life and the goods and the bads, when your kind of way of living becomes about not feeling the bad stuff and only feeling the good stuff, that can really get us into trouble in a lot of different ways. And having that become tied to our eating habits is one of those ways.
So, Jason, are you saying, I've heard this phrase before, people talk about emotional eating. Is that something that you're referencing here?
Yeah, absolutely. That's, I think, certainly a part of what's contributing to the rising rates of obesity is this idea of our eating habits getting tied into our emotions, and not just negative ones too, but it's pretty easy to see why you might eat some tasty food when you're sad or and depressed or bored is a very common one. But in our society, it's become tied to all the happy things too. If you think about all our celebrations, weddings and birthdays and all the end of the year parties and things like that. Food's a part of that too, family gatherings. And so it's really becoming tied to either the goal of kind of producing or enhancing having a positive emotional experience more and more.
Yeah. So I think the direction that Jason is leading us in, and we're going to return to this after this brief break, is this idea of handling our emotions and our relationships, and then food being a part of our lives instead of the answer for our lives. And we'll be back with you after this brief break. Hello, and welcome back to New Skills for Living. We're talking with Dr. Jason Lillis about this idea of overweight and obesity. And it's important to know that Dr. Lillis is sharing with us from the concept or the paradigm of acceptance and commitment therapy, which is a very important and dynamic therapy that has helped people with a lot of different problems and challenges and difficulties. Jason's doctoral dissertation was applying acceptance and commitment therapy to this particular problem, and so we have a real expert here with us today. And Jason, did you want to talk about the role of the emotions and the mind in eating? Is that the way you'd like to start off this segment?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things coming from an acceptance and commitment therapy or ACT perspective that we feel is going on in this area is that people often set up their relationship to their own thoughts and feelings and bodily sensations almost as a war to be won, as if there's the goal is to kind of suppress the things or control or get rid of the things you don't want, thoughts and feelings, and only have the ones that you do want. And when you do that, you really fall into a trap, because now your kind of life needs to be about having or not having certain thoughts and feelings and emotions, and it becomes kind of less about living and what do you really want in your life and what's going to be a fulfilling life for you moving forward. And so this can be a problem in terms of weight loss, because if you're going to try to lose weight, you're going to run into a lot of thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations that are difficult to deal with, including kind of your hunger urges, self-critical thoughts about yourself, feelings of sadness and hopelessness. And if you don't have kind of a way to approach these and that's going to help propel you forward, you're going to struggle with this task.
Yeah. Now, I think an interesting dynamic from what you were saying is, so these different thoughts and feelings that come up, sometimes people might become really impatient. Their expectations may not be met. And do you think part of this problem, too, Jason, is that people focus on the scale and the weight loss rather than themselves as a whole human being? Can you?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a big part of what we learned in our research is when we were running our groups, actually, one of the first things we said is we don't care if you lose weight or not. This is not. This isn't going to be about that. What this is about is you taking steps to move towards a life that's important to you, that feels vital, that involves the whole range of human experience, and that is really connected to your values, to what's important. So these weight loss efforts, I think part of what has gone on with why a lot of the popular weight loss diets and routines and programs have failed is the narrow focus of just numbers on a scale, which in the short term people can kind of motivate themselves and kind of push themselves to take these more extreme measures to try to lose weight. But over time, this if it doesn't fit into a broad context of what you want your life to be about, that kind of motivation abandons you.
Yeah.
And so it's not necessarily a problem to be fixed, weight loss. It's more of a new healthy life pattern to engage in. And if that's got to be connected to all the things that are important to you in your life.
So that it's almost like the paradox like with happiness. That when we pursue happiness, we just make ourselves more miserable. But when we live a meaningful life, then happiness kind of just happens for us. And so, Jason, are you saying then that if people don't just focus on the scale or the dress size or the shirt size, but they focus on having a good life, a good, healthy life, weight loss then, fitness is a natural part of that?
Absolutely. It's, how does this fit into things that are important to you? I mean, it could be caring about your partner relationship and wanting to enhance intimacy and continue to be a caring, loving partner as you go on. Could be more about wanting to be around and be able to engage in a variety of activities with your grandchildren and see their milestones and things like that. When you start to fit healthy living into these areas of things that are important to you, then now you have the kind of motivation to continue with such a long, hard task over time. You have because it's tied to things that are important to you.
Yeah. So you can already see there's a distinction between what Dr. Lillis is sharing with us about acceptance and commitment therapy and some of the more popular weight loss methods you might find on television. And we'll talk more about this after this brief break. Welcome back. We're talking about obesity and weight loss with Dr. Jason Lillis. And Jason, you were starting to talk with us about self-criticism and the role that plays. Please tell us more. Yeah.
As I go, I'm going to probably mention some resources along the way that I hope will show up on your screen. But the stigma of being overweight is an issue that's not normally addressed in weight loss programs, or is sort of inadequately addressed. And it's a chronic, pervasive thing. Making kind of fun of people who are overweight is still socially acceptable. It's one of the few things that remains as a socially acceptable thing to pick on, and discrimination exists at every stage of the employment cycle for people who are overweight. But even beyond that, I think whether you're overweight or not and you live in the society, you get kind of a pervasive message from the media and pop culture that you can always feel better, be smarter, look good, look better. And, from an early age, we kind of learn to internalize that in a way. And so we all sort of carry around this burden of self-criticism. We could always imagine ourselves being better or thinner or whatever it is. And how you deal with this is a really important issue for someone who is trying to lose weight. Because as you approach your goals of losing weight and improving your life, you will constantly experience negative self-judgments and criticisms and feelings about yourself and kind of where you're at right now, and imagining yourself being different. And so that becomes a big issue, a big part of it too.
So is it correct in your research and your experience as a psychologist, Jason, some people have said that sometimes people gain a lot of weight and maintain maybe even an obese lifestyle because they're wanting to avoid relationships and avoid. So can obesity be an avoidance technique?
It's interesting you say that. Yeah, oftentimes the reasons or causes, if you will, that led to someone maybe being overweight aren't the same things that now come up as they try to lose weight. And I've seen this a number of times with the people I've worked with, where just thinking of many people like this that started using food to comfort themselves when they were depressed about relationships and other things going on in their lives, and becoming very overweight, and then trying to lose weight and approaching weight loss goals, and noticing now that a whole different set of things are keeping them scared from doing that as well. So now that if they lose the weight, for example, if their intimacy in their relationship doesn't improve, they can no longer kind of blame their weight. And so you see oftentimes kind of a regain comeback at that point, because just like you're saying, it's a way to kind of control potentially negative emotions that might come up if something doesn't go well.
Okay. So if someone is doing an individual counseling session with you, Jason, and they're revealing that they're very self-critical.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hate myself, I don't like myself, I'll never be good enough, I can't accomplish this, who do I think I am?
Mm-hmm.
Using ACT therapy, how do you relate to them then?
Yeah. Well, one of the main things is we teach people a different kind of approach to, it's sort of inviting all of your emotional and cognitive experiences to come along for the ride, almost as if you're kind of carrying them forward with you on the journey. And you kind of don't get to choose which ones are going to show up or when. So we teach people to become, instead of less aware, more aware of those self-critical thoughts, but also help them gain a perspective on them so that they don't seem, it's almost as if you're trying to look at your thoughts rather than from your thoughts, which is what we usually do. We're usually kind of swimming in a stream of them, and they color everything we do, and we have yellow glasses on or something. This helps disentangle having those self-critical thoughts from the actual things we do, and that's a big part of what we try to do in ACT.
So if someone is having this thought, like, I hate myself, I can't lose this weight, what the heck, I might as well just go ahead and eat. Now, one of the things I'm noticing is in terms of time, what I'd like to do is return to that question right after this brief break and hear what Dr. Lillis has to share with us about that. We'll see after the break. Hello and welcome back to New Skills for Living. We're talking with Dr. Jason Lillis, who is an expert in acceptance and commitment therapy, and especially as it applies to obesity and being overweight. Along with this interview here on Channel 8, KOLO TV, this interview can also be seen on my website, which I believe is up on your screen right now. So this interview and other interviews with people like Dr. Stephen Hayes and Dr. Jackie Pistorello are available on my website. So now to get back to Dr. Lillis. So, Jason, this idea then, if someone is really discouraged and they're having these self-critical thoughts like, I'm fat, I'm stupid, I'm never going to make it, what the heck, I might as well just eat a big chocolate cake and the heck with it. As a therapist now, how do you kind of guide them and work with them?
Well, I think what I was mentioning before is one of the things is we try to create a space where it's just okay to have whatever thoughts and feelings you have and allow them to be there without kind of pushing off as we normally do in a way that can get us off track. And and then help people reorient to the business of living part, which is, in that moment when you're having that self-judgment and self-critical thought, which of your values have changed? Probably none of them, right? And so it's sort of connecting people again with doing what's important to them and what is vital and what's...
So can I interrupt you?
Yeah,
so
sure.
If we can go... So Jason, here's this person, and let's say they're 40 pounds overweight, and again, they're feeling very self-hateful, and they're feeling discouraged, and I'm going to eat a big chocolate cake, and I hate myself. In terms of values, now, can you be more concrete? Can you tell us, like, what do you say to them about their feeling those feelings and finding their values?
Well, so you can go in a variety of different ways with that. I mean, one end is to work on having people just sit and ride out that experience of having that thought and having that emotion.
So these terrible thoughts and feelings that people want to avoid, you're saying part of the solution is feeling it, not making it go away.
Right, actually creating a space where you can feel it.
Okay.
And so creating a context where it's okay to feel these things, and also, but again, take it off the idea that these thoughts are you or these emotions are you. You're something separate, something that's kind of an arena where these things are occurring, and that arena where those things are occurring, that's not threatened by anything, by any of the thoughts or feelings. And then I would, again, work to help people clarify what's important to them in that moment, whether, again, they want to, broaden their life activities or be able to be a better partner or whatever things are important to them, kind of reorient them to that and see if they can continue to move in a direction that they want and carry those things along with them.
Okay. So if someone says, in the midst of this, a value is being a really good mother or a really good father or completing their degree at school, or being a good coworker, or being a strong, vibrant member of their church. You have them focus on that then, not continuing to focus on the self-hatred or focus on the weight or the scale, but focus on your life.
Right. So it's sort of, if you're given a choice of, I'm going to fight with these thoughts and emotions, or I'm going to move towards these things I care about. We're trying to get people to move towards the things they care about and allow this to do whatever it's going to do, without trying to having to control it.
Then, Jason, what can you share with our audience? And we've got about a minute, okay? What have you seen then in terms of the results when you've had this self-critical, self-loathing person with you and you've helped them refocus on values? What results have you seen in their lives?
Well, we've seen a lot of people, again, not focusing on the weight issue, really start to do things that they might have never done before, and such as we've had people be afraid to go out to eat with coworkers because they don't want to be around the bad foods, or go to the beach with their family because they don't want to be in a bathing suit and things like that. And as these things start to kind of fall away, as the barriers start to fall away, interestingly, the weight loss efforts become easier for them because it's not a kind of a forced bully myself into it thing. It's now becoming a big part of their existence. It's
kind of part of a vibrant, healthy life.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank Dr. Jason Lillis from the University of Nevada, Reno, and an acceptance and commitment therapist for being here with us. We want to thank you for joining us as well, and we'll continue throughout 2009 having experts well-trained in acceptance and commitment therapy being with us. We want to, again, thank Dr. Lillis for being here with us. All right, Jason. And we wish you a good life, and we'll see you next month. Also, just to remind you, those web resources and other resources that came up, you can contact Dr. Lillis and access those resources, as well as my website at easeap.com. We'll see you next month. And again, thank you, Dr. Lillis.
Thank you very much, Tom.